Okay, so I want to tell a story today. And that story is about how one of my aunts and my family do not talk to me because they think that I, at the age of 16, did something with her partner at the time. And I have been a nervous wreck to talk about something like this and to tell this.
It's about the spirit of chaos and confusion attached to the Braxton family values.
Y'all, the Braxton are really the family with the drama that keeps on giving on and off screen, because just when you think you've heard it all about the Braxtons' dubious secrets, their niece comes out to blast them for abandoning her when it was confirmed that one of her aunt's partners made inappropriate moves on her when she was just 16 years old. Instead of addressing the hatter head on, it was swept under the rug, and she was pushed to the curb real bad in order to protect that aunt's man. She found this conversation the sort of conversation, and she showed it to my dad, and my dad called the aunt, and we spoke about it, and we talked about it a little bit, and I remember just a lot of emotions with a lot going on. I was 16 at the time, and I'm 32 now. I had to think about I'm 32 now, and so, oh my god, it's been 16 years. This is wild. Anyway, okay, so yeah, my aunt was there for me. She was very kind to Marais and was like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, blah, 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 and not blah, blah, blah. But she was very kind, and it just felt like safe, you know. But then as the years gone by, it's like that mood and that assumption that I didn't do anything because I was a child was not that assumption. Well, after everything we've seen about this family, it really ain't no surprise here. We all know that the relationship between the Braxton sisters and the whole family has always seemed to be a bit like touch and go, and this ain't the first time that someone in the clan has stepped out to admit that someone else in the family had touched and her. But what really got people fired up was when it was revealed who this aunt and her partner was. And although I love my family, I admit that most of the time I don't like my family. Take a deep breath, everyone. I feel like I'm angry at everyone in my family. They weren't my family, so they wouldn't be my friends now. This is in contrast to the Braxton sisters' willingness to overlook the abuse of one of their own. And our BT Toni Braxton regrets ever supporting her family going public through their reality show, because all those checks are nothing compared to constantly being the focus of bad news for more than 10 years. Ashley is the oldest daughter of Michael "Mikey" Braxton Jr., a nurse who occasionally appeared on their show. She was correct when she said that their family is dealing with some generational trauma because he isn't particularly close to his sisters for whatever reason and is pursuing his own interests. And Ashley ultimately suffered as a result of growing up in such a distant family environment. Ashley's account sheds light on a complex and painful situation that involves family betrayal, public scrutiny, and the emotional turmoil of dealing with unresolved trauma. In the narrative Ashley shares, she refers to an aunt who initially appeared supportive, offering words of reassurance and comfort during a difficult time in Ashley's life. However, over time, the relationship between Ashley and her aunt, who turns out to be Trina Braxton, took a sharp and unexpected turn. The unraveling of this bond, along with the involvement of Trina's ex-husband, Gabe, reveals deeper layers of manipulation, misunderstanding, and emotional conflict. Ashley never explicitly named the individuals involved in her story, but she described how she was treated unfairly by the aunt's husband on a television show, which piqued the curiosity of online viewers. These internet detectives quickly pieced together that the people in question were none other than Trina Braxton and her former husband, Gabe. As the situation unfolded, Ashley expressed her surprise and disillusionment with the treatment she received from the couple, particularly how Gabe's actions on the show left a lasting negative impact on her. Ashley recalled how, at first, Trina seemed genuinely sympathetic toward her. Trina reassured Ashley that she was not to blame for the traumatic experiences she had endured, especially since Ashley was just a child when those events occurred. For a while, it seemed like Trina was offering a safe space for Ashley, understanding the pain she had gone through. However, as time went on, the tone of Trina's attitude shifted dramatically. What had started as a supportive and understanding relationship soon soured into a toxic and accusatory dynamic. Ashley's experience with Trina took a painful turn when Trina began to believe that Ashley was attempting to seduce her husband, Gabe. This accusation seemed to stem from a misunderstanding or perhaps a projection of Trina's own insecurities and unresolved issues within her marriage. With this shift in perspective, Ashley found herself cut off from the woman who had once offered her support, and the warm grace that Trina had shown was replaced with cold suspicion and judgment. The psychological toll this shift must have had on Ashley cannot be understated. To go from being comforted by a family member to being accused of inappropriate intentions is a betrayal that leaves deep emotional scars. Adding another layer to the situation, Ashley also reflected on the complex and troubled relationship between Trina and Gabe. It became apparent that Trina had been dealing with her own demons throughout her marriage to Gabe. Gabe's behavior was often erratic and destructive, and this likely contributed to Trina's heavy drinking during their time together. Her emotional dependency on him had created a kind of trauma bond, where she was so emotionally invested in the turmoil of the relationship that it became difficult for her to separate herself from it, even when it was damaging her. Trina's deep emotional attachment to Gabe became even more complicated after his passing due to cancer. His death seemed to trigger a profound and visceral reaction in Trina, one that even her second husband, Vav, struggled to understand. Vav could not comprehend why Trina was so deeply affected by Gabe's death, given the tumultuous nature of their relationship. It was clear that Trina had not fully processed the emotional damage caused by her years with Gabe. Her grief was not just for the loss of a husband, but for the unresolved issues and the emotional chaos that had defined their marriage. The dynamics between Trina, Gabe, and Ashley highlight the complexity of family relationships and the lasting effects of trauma. Trina's initial support for Ashley gave way to accusations that ultimately severed their relationship, while Trina's emotional struggles with Gabe's memory and his death show how unresolved issues can manifest in destructive ways. For Ashley, the entire experience must have been an emotional roller coaster, feeling both supported and betrayed by someone she thought she could trust. And for Trina, the unresolved trauma from her marriage to Gabe appears to have cast a long shadow over her ability to process her grief, adding to the emotional weight of an already difficult situation. In the end, Ashley's story not only sheds light on her personal pain and the betrayal she faced, but also serves as a reminder of the complicated nature of relationships and the profound impact of trauma. Whether it's the hurt caused by a family member's accusations or the weight of unresolved emotional wounds, these experiences shape us in ways that can be difficult to understand or navigate. And toxicity she put up with just to stay married to him, it wouldn't be out of pocket for her to protect him even though he tried to have inappropriate relations with her niece. He cheated, and he just super duper messed up, and he was like, you know what, but I messed up, but I'm going to do everything that I can to make amends and make my marriage work. And doctor, sure, you know, I called you about something recent that happened in Gab and I's relationship. I feel like we went back a good 25 steps, that is. Why you not wear my ring? You know I was going to point that out. You ask me why aren't you wearing your ring? Take it, pawn it. I don't want it. No, the symbolism is gone. When that ring was pulled on my finger, what it symbolized no longer applies, so I don't want it, and I don't care how much is worth. Keep it, it means nothing to me. Do you get the idea, Gabe? She had a gut feeling that I was doing something inappropriate in the middle of the night, so I gave her my phone and she took it away from me. When I realized what I was doing, I thought, well, shoot, I'm not checking your phone. What was there on that phone that you didn't want her to see? There were text messages between me and other women. Indeed, there must have been something going on there, since it's absurd to consider how much information is leaking about the Braxton family. And keep in mind that this isn't the first time Ashley has discussed.
There was, I guess, you know, when you're touched inappropriately as a child and then it sort of manifests and then you start doing it. So then there was a lot of guilt there because I had sexually touched her. Right. And so for me, the reason why she passed away was because of drugs. And so for me, all of those reasons was because of me, and that's why she's not here.
Ashley was going through a lot because she was dealing with her trauma alone. And as they say, hurt people hurt people. So she started acting out and passed the trauma onto her sister. When her sister passed away, Ashley felt as though she had no one left in her corner because her aunts didn't want anything to do with her and Mikey didn't do a great job of standing up for his daughters. This TikTok really made some waves but she's done other interviews about how traumatic her childhood was. Ashley's mother also relinquished custody of her and her sister when they were very young, which led to her feeling unworthy of love and that she didn't matter to her family. You know what I mean? It turns into pure hatred and rage. But before that, maybe things were going to happen and I couldn't retaliate, so I internalized it in an emotional way as a kid. However, when I got older, it became real because what happened to Ashley also happened to Tamar because she talked about being touched by a family member when she was young. Tracy did say the same thing, but like Tamar, she didn't mention the person who touched her. Nevertheless, the point is that this isn't an isolated situation in this family, and it sounds like no one did anything to support and protect the sisters.
A childhood that I was like too afraid to talk about or too ashamed to talk about. But the truth of the matter is that, I have been molested, by both sides of my family. And it's not nothing I ever talked.
Ashley has released several videos discussing this, and she asked that people not criticize her family for what she said because she only wanted to share her story and move on. Hey guys, I appreciate the love and support, but the purpose of my speaking about this was to shed light on this kind of situation. There are a lot of women, men, and people in the world who have to be silenced, and the point was to voice what happened to me. There are other sides to the stories, so I don't think I need to come out with a bang and guns blazing, and it's not who I am, my character, or what I was intending to say. Although Ashley owes no one anything regarding her experience, people are saying that it would have been nice if she had at least made it somewhat clear who she was referring to. Since Tamar has always been viewed as the most troublesome of the sisters, and we know more about the toxic men in her life, people were prepared to tear her a new one when the first video was released. At one point, Tamar went on to rant on Twitter, saying, quote, "My family is toxic, I should have never gone back to Braxton." It wasn't until she liked the comment that most people realized she was referring to Trina and Gabe, but by then, people were clamoring for all of the Braxton family members for leaving their niece in her most vulnerable state. Family values never, y'all have no idea, none of the gaslighting is crazy. OMG, I just pray my marriage can be saved and my life can be spared, my family is awful, end quote.
Look, I'm no psychologist, but Evelyn Braxton is absolutely the root cause of her family's generational trauma, okay? She's not the sole cause. Michael Braxton Sr. got some issues too, but she is the fish rots from the head. I was once told that millennials have the luxury of depression, and I know that's gonna sound really jarring, but if you sit with it, it's very true. Because being depressed means that you can sit in your emotions, and if you are in survival mode, you can't stop to sit in anything. Evelyn Braxton has been in survival mode most of her life. I don't know what that woman went through. She's never spoken about it, but the way she bottles things and the way she copes, she has spewed that toxic coping all over her family. Because I'm trying to think, how would Michael Braxton Jr., how does a father allow his daughter to experience that, right? Like what? Then again, Michael Braxton Sr. abandoned his daughters for some tail too. So, it truly is generational.
Even though the Braxtons haven't said anything to support or refute what Ashley said, people still believe her and are supporting her for speaking up after such a lengthy quote. One person even asked her if her grandmother had supported her through all of this, to which Ashley replied, "M and baby." I think you heard Toni say that she wouldn't have anything to do with them at all if they weren't her relatives. How can you stop talking to a kid and blame them for acting like a child predator? What do you think of Ashley's tale and the whole Braxton family drama? Do you think she should be straightforward and identify that aunt, or is it best left alone? It's strange that the aunt didn't leave her husband and blame the kid. That's ridiculous, to put it bluntly. Make sure you enjoy it by leaving a comment below. Additionally, subscribe since there will be more videos in the future. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye, Patties.